Hi guys, I'm Tammy K. Welcome to my channel, and today on day number 4 of my beginner watercolor series, we're going to be talking about color wheel and talking about how we can get all colors from the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And then we'll talk about warm versus cool colors, what they are, and how you can have warm and cool shades within each of these 2 groups. So stick around, we're gonna have so much fun. I'm so glad you're here. So let's just get to color mixing today. So first of all, we've got our color wheel, and I've got red at the top. So I'm just going to grab my red paint. Let's spray down first, shall we? Always a good plan. Now I'm just spraying things down until they are a bit shiny, and you can kind of play around with that to see how much you need. So I've got a nice red here, add in some of our water, and I want it just to be a nice consistency. If you saw my video on consistencies of paint, you'll notice we're probably doing something like a coffee. So this is a liquidy mix where you can still spread it around really nicely. It's not too thin, and it's also not so thick that it's hard to move along the palette. So we're just going to paint this lovely red in here. And when we're thinking about our color wheel, we're going to think about a lot of different things. For example, what are the colors that are primary? And that's the first thing that we're dealing with today. So our primary colors are going to be red, yellow, and blue. And we are going as close to that primary red as possible. We're going to actually take our blue next, and we're going to put our blue in here. And our primary colors, the red, blue, and yellow, is what we use to mix every other color. So if you think about it, you're going to be able to mix 2 of these primaries together to create a secondary color. And then you can mix 2 of the secondary colors to create a tertiary color. So anyway, this might be confusing now if this color theory is new to you, but don't worry, we're going to get to the bottom of this by the end of this, hopefully. By the end of this video, hopefully this will be much clearer to you. All right, so filling that in, today I'm using a number 6 round brush, and it's just a nice size that can help me get some good coverage pretty quickly. Okay, so now we're gonna add in our yellow. This is called a cadmium yellow, and I'm grabbing that paint, grabbing some water. This one is less contaminated, so we'll grab from there. Now, yellow is one that is a color that can't go very dark just because of the way it is. And so, you know, when I am painting some details over the top of a flower, for example, I always like to go pretty thick with the paint so that I can see those colors really stand up and show up. Otherwise, it can be kind of hard to notice. So today we are doing our color mixing, and we are mixing up all the colors instead of using all these colors listed here that are already on my palette, because I want to show you how simple it is to get it done. All right, so we have our primaries, red, blue, and yellow. So mixing my brush in this water to get most of it clean. Then I'm dipping in here in the more cleanish water. So now these are primaries, and everything is mixed from that. Now we're gonna go to our secondary colors. That would be orange, green, and violet. So we're gonna grab orange from, we're gonna grab some yellow, and we're gonna mix that in over here with some red until we get to a nice orangey color. And that is pretty dark on the red side. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab more yellow. Yellow tends to be a bit weaker, and sometimes you just have to kind of mix around until you get that color that you're wanting, okay? I don't wanna contaminate my yellow, so I continue to dip into this water and then this one to really clean my brush. So I don't want a red-orange because that's what we're going to want for this section right here. So a really nice light orangish color. And color mixing can take some time, but it's going to help you really get to know your colors, and it's going to help you to really understand what you're dealing with. So that looks pretty good to me. A little bit more liquid would be good. So this is sort of a tedious part of the process of this video series, but I'll be honest with you, it's so important to be able to understand at least the basics of color theory, what it means, and how to mix different colors, where they come from, because then you can really understand your paint colors. And when you are trying, for example, to pick some colors you want to use in a painting, you'll know more about how to get to those those colors, how to mix them yourself. And now we want to do a red orange, so I'm going to actually take some of this red and add it in right here and make it a lot more of a reddish color without going too red. Now we have a nice red-orange color here. So mixing that in, and I think I want a little bit more yellow in there, just a little bit. So it really does take some time. I think the idea is that when you have your red-orange, you would have a 50-50 mix of red and orange together, and here we're just estimating. So I always say, we're not going for perfectionism, we're just trying to figure it out. And you can definitely see that there's a shade difference here. There's a difference in these colors. So we're going this way now to our orange yellow. And so we're gonna want a lot of yellow on this palette, on our palette, to get to that color. So I am going to grab my yellow and start mixing that in until I'm getting a shade or a color between this one and this one. And this is a cadmium yellow that I'm using, by the way. So this is going to be a very bright yellow, and it's going to take a lot of yellow paint, like I said, to get to where you want to be. So there's an orangey tone to it, kind of in between this and this one here. Not a huge difference, but these are subtleties that you can definitely pick up on. It definitely looks more orangey when it's next to its yellow buddy over here. So I would love for you guys to let me know in comments if you're enjoying this video so far, what you have enjoyed, if you've watched the series, what you've liked so far, or what you'd like to learn in the future. And if you have any ideas about color theory, things that you could share with the group, I'd love to hear about it as well. All right, let's go ahead and kind of skip around right now. We're gonna do a green. And the green means we have to mix our yellow and our blue together. So I have my blue, and we're just gonna go for that. So I'm gonna grab some yellow. If you are enjoying, and this is gonna take a little bit to mix these two together, okay? And if you are enjoying this video, definitely give it a like so that I know that you are having a good time. And I'm gonna even mix some of my lemon yellow. So here's the thing, guys. If I mix my lemon yellow, I'm going to find a much brighter green than if I do just my cadmium yellow. And that's something we're going to talk about a little bit further in this lesson, because we want to understand how different colors work with each other. And now that one looks a bit more blue. I'm going to add in more of this cadmium yellow. And I'm just kind of experimenting at this point until I can get to the spot that I want to be in with our green. So a little bit more blue maybe. And we're just gonna add that in. All right, and so we're going to now paint this green. Let's do a little bit. If we did a blue-green, we'd add a little bit more blue there. A little bit more here. So we're gonna get our different shades, and we have a blue-green to do, a green, and a yellow-green. So that one looks more like a yellow-green. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue here. So we're just going to take this color and add it on. For now, this kind of looks like a sap green to me. And just add that in. Now, some of you who have done color theory before might say, hey, this one is not a true green, or what you should see on the color wheel. Right now, I'm just trying to demonstrate for you guys what you can do to get to this point of mixing your own colors. And I'm not a professional in any way, I'm self-taught, and so these methods are things that I have learned, and I'm still continuing to learn. But we can learn these things together and experiment together. We've got our yellow-green as we are mixing as well. And so I thank you for your patience. I thank you for watching these videos, and let me know in the comments if you're enjoying them, what you've liked about the things that you have seen. And I also want to know if you have any ideas for future videos. I do a lot of florals and I enjoy doing that, but there's many other things that we can accomplish together. I'm going to add a little bit more blue here to make this. And we're just kind of adding until we have a good mixture. I think that's what we're going to do. They're blue-green. So yeah, I like to do landscapes as well. And it's just really fun to try new things. And sometimes we get stuck in the places where we feel most comfortable. And that can be a good thing because we really start to learn a lot about that subject when we really focus a lot. But sometimes it gets us stuck and we need to be pushing ourselves to do more and learning more if that's important to us. Okay, so now we are going to be doing the violet, red violet, and blue violet. So we're gonna start by mixing up our violet color. I would say purple, but I know it's often considered violet on the color wheel, so I'm just gonna say that. So I'm doing my red and my blue. This is a violet, this is a purple that is more red. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue here. So this is not scientific. We are not measuring out drop for drop. We're just playing around with color to see what happens and what we like. Okay, so this is a nice violet color, I would say. And I love how the wheel's looking right now. I think this is something that I'm going to frame because I love everything color, all the colors of the rainbow, and this just makes my heart happy. And also I was pretty excited to get these lines pretty straight, so yay. It's always a fun time. Now just trying to paint it in and stay in the lines, which is really not that important, but sometimes it feels like it is. Okay, so adding this in, and I'm gonna mix up a little bit more of this violet color, and then we are going to do a red violet and a blue violet. So grabbing some more of the blue, more of that blue, and we're gonna mix it in water, rinse, and adding some red, okay? And that red is really intense. It's just kind of overtaking everything. So adding in the blue. Sometimes I'm rinsing my brush, guys, honestly. Sometimes I'm not. It just depends on how I'm feeling. So this is about the shade that I am wanting to go for. So now I'm gonna take more blue and I'm gonna add it into this section here. And we're gonna create a really nice blue-violet or purple, you might say. I usually say purple. Okay, and we are just going to paint that in right here. Oh, that's pretty. You can definitely see the difference there. It's looking real nice. So guys, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe and like the video. It lets people know that we're having a good time and that people are enjoying the information here. And I always want to let you guys know that I teach watercolor on Patreon, and it's a platform where I offer bonus content to my subscribers. We're going to add in some red to this purple to make it more of a red violet. And right now, oh, that is my pink. Oh no, that's my red. And right now I just found out that I can offer 7-day risk-free trials to Patreon if you wanted to try it out. The link is in the description of the video. And I offer bonus content like exclusive tutorials, and we do live streams together. And we just overall have so much fun. So you can try it out if you'd like, and if you want to cancel, that is fine. I also offer art prints for those in the art print tiers. So check that out if you're interested. Okay, so I'm just checking it to see if that's the color. I think I want it to be a little bit more red. So I'm gonna add a little bit more red there. And I feel like we're just about there. So this is really what it is, guys. It's a trial and error, at least how I paint it. Some people might have everything already, you know, measured out, and that's great. I'm not that calculated of a painter, and I like to just kind of get with a project and start it and just kind of experiment and see how it goes. So that's sort of my style here. So if you want to do the color wheel and be very exact, if you have, for example, if you have tube paints and you can pour out enough, like a little drop of each of the two colors you're mixing, and then feel like, you know, everything is pretty even, then you're gonna get more of an even spread of everything. But this is just a way to give you guys an example of how to mix and the different colors and how they work together. So next we're gonna do a little bit more about warm versus cool colors. I've changed out my waters. I'm actually gonna clean off my brush right now. And we are going to start doing a little bit of just painting in these boxes to give you an example of warm versus cool colors. So warm colors tend to be the reds, oranges, and yellows, and then the cool colors tend to be the greens, blues, and our purples. However, what would you think if I were to tell you that each color has a warm and a cool version, or versions actually more than one? So let me give an example. When I first learned about this, it kind of blew my mind. So we're going to go with the warm colors first, but we're going to show a little bit about some that they're warm, but there's the version that's warm versus the version that's cool. All right, so we have our classic red that we've been working with here. And I'm just going to make sure it's liquidy enough so that I can go ahead and put this on the palette. All right, so here's our lovely red. So here's a red that will go unnamed, and we did use it for our primary. I can say I feel like it's a little bit more on the pinkish side than some, maybe. I'll just add a little bit here. Okay. And if you add a little bit more color, you're really gonna see that warmth. Okay, rinse the brush. And now we're gonna take this, which I would technically call a kind of a pinkish color here. And this one is going to be your cool red. And here's the reason why. If we look at our color wheel, we're going to see that if we have our true red here, if we go this way, we're gonna have more of a warmer red because it's gonna be closer to the yellow side. With this cooler red here, it's gonna be more towards the blue side, getting a little bit cooler versus warmer. And if you think that is cool, just wait, because there's many other examples. And I just thought this is very helpful. And what is the big reason why this is important? And I'll tell you right now, because here's the thing, and we'll do a demo here. The bottom line is that when you have various colors and you mix them together, you create different colors, right? And if you mix two primaries, you get something over here, two of these, you get something over here, vice versa, and over here. But if you mix two colors together that, say one color happens to have two of these, and then one happens to have this in it as well, you're gonna get mud. Mixing the red, blue, and yellow together, it's gonna give you mud. If you mix variations of that, for example, let's do red, violet, and blue, green, and orange, yellow, you're gonna get mud because it has all the red, the blue, and the yellow in it. And so it's very important to know that if you're mixing together a red and a yellow to create, and we're just gonna do an orange here. I'm just gonna grab an orange. We're not gonna do cool versus warm here. We're just going to do the orange there by himself, and then move on to the yellow because I have another demo for that. So being aware of that is really important because it's going to change whether you mix together. If you mix colors together that have the three primaries, you're gonna get more of a dull version of that color. And if you mix together two colors that have only two of the primaries, you're gonna get a brighter version. Okay, hopefully this becomes really clear as we continue to demonstrate. So I have my cadmium yellow here still, and a little bit more water. This is a beautiful color. I use it all the time. And make sure I get enough here. And I am trying to stay in the lines as I was in the other videos, but let's be honest, it's okay. And sometimes I actually go outside the lines like I did that there on purpose, just to be able to work fast and to remind my brain that it doesn't matter if I go outside the lines. My brain sometimes will freak out about that a little bit. And so I do it as a nice little therapy piece. As a therapist, I like to practice self-care and challenging myself as well. Okay, we are starting to see a big difference in the two yellows. So the cadmium yellow here, the first one, that one leans more towards red. And what you might think, why is there red? Why would there be red in a yellow? But it creates it to be a more warm yellow. So this is more warm. And then this yellow right here, the lemon yellow, is cooler. It tends to lean more towards the blue. So, and we'll use those later to mix up some fun experiments. And I will hopefully explain this, and this will make sense to you guys. So I'm just gonna put these down here as well. I suppose I don't actually have to fill in this entire space, but I just thought, you know, it's there, so why not? Why not? Why not? All right, adding in that lemon for later. There we go. And then we'll mix them with our sap green and see what comes out of it. Okay, so those are our warm colors, and yet we have warm and cool versions of the warm colors. All right, so let's go with our cools, which would be green, blue, and violet. So I'm starting with my greens here. I have a lovely light green that is clearly a warmer color. I can tell just by looking at it, it's not quite a grass green. It's almost this like lime green situation happening. Either way, it is quite intense. You wouldn't want to use it straight up in a painting like for a landscape because it's just way brighter than anything in nature. But it's a beautiful color, but this is a warm color. And then let's go ahead and grab this over here, which is an extreme version of a cool green, but it still is a cool green. And so this is more of that, not a turquoise, but more of a teal color. And you can notice, maybe you can start to see the blue in this. I'm just going to make sure to get this part here in the corner. And I'm gonna take off a little bit of that liquid. Okay, rinsing the brush. So we have a warmish green, more yellow. This one is a cooler green, more blue. All right, and now we're gonna add in our blue color. And just like the orange, I won't be doing any demonstration of cooler versus warmer blue. I feel like, at least for me and my painting experience, I haven't really seen blue as a very warm or cool, warm or cool blues. When I think of those warm and cool colors for the cool colors, I'm thinking of the greens and the violets. Okay, so I have 2 violets here on my palette. So again, we'll start with the warmer color, the warmer version. And this one is going to have more red in it. Lean more towards the red side. It's a really beautiful color. I love using it for flowers. And I'm just going to maybe fill in my square first on the edges and then paint it in. It's been a lot of painting inside the lines today. All right, so that's a nice reddish purple color. And then we have our other purple or violet that leans more blue. That is really, really dark. So if I take a little bit more water to spread this out, make it a little bit thinner, you're gonna see that better. And I'll just take off some of that paint. You can just remove it with a clean damp brush or cleanish damp brush and spread that out. And you can really see the blue in that. So hopefully by seeing these side by side, you can start to look at colors anywhere, painted walls, clothing, house colors, door colors, and see whether a warm or cool color leans more warm or cool. It's a pretty fun thing. So the last thing I want us to do today is just do our demonstration. So I've got what I call kind of a sappy green color here. And like I said, this one tends to be a bit more yellowy. So I'm just gonna paint that in here before we do our mixing. And we'll just see if we can tell any difference in this. And when you're mixing too, we are not necessarily, like I said, doing 50-50. Plus with yellow, it tends to be a weaker color. And so sometimes you need to add in more yellow than the other color just to make it really show up. Okay, so all we have to do here is mix another sap green area right there so that we can have 2 little areas to experiment with. And then we're gonna grab our yellows, okay? So we'll start with a cadmium yellow, which is the warmer. And I don't wanna go in hard and add too much too soon. So, okay, yeah, we can definitely use some more. Make sure to rinse your brushes. And so we've got a very yellowy green that tends to be, you know what? It's actually, yep, that's the correct one. I was like, which one is it? No, it is a warmer green. And you can see that there's a lot of yellow in there, and it's kind of a weird color. It's a bit muted. It's not like intense and bright. It's actually pretty muted compared to this one. And remember, so we have in our sap green, we have blue and yellow, though we added a yellow that is more of a darker yellow. It leans more towards red. So it's more of a muted color. So we've got the blue, the yellow, and the red, since there's a tiny bit of red in this yellow, okay? And then we have our lemon yellow, which we're gonna add to our green right now and see what happens. Oh, and I have to say, you know, when I was first starting to paint, I had a lemon yellow, and I could not understand why, when I'd open the tube, why there was a little streaks of blue in there. And I thought that was really odd. And that's before I knew about this, about the warmer versus cooler yellows. And so anyway, I can attest to it. I saw the ingredients when they kind of separated, and it just made a lot of sense. Okay, so, and if you wanted to, you can even add a little bit more yellow in there. So you can see the difference. We have, you know, different yellows here. So, or yellow greens, I should say. So when you're mixing your sap plus that reddish yellow, you're gonna get a warmer green that tends to be a little bit more muted. Mix that same sap with the lemon yellow, and you're going to get your cooler green that leans more towards that blue side, because this has a tiny bit of blue. All right, so that is the demonstration that I was hoping to share with you today. And I hope that when you see colors in the future, that the warms and the cools will really easily stand out to you. So this is a bit of a bonus video today, because after color mixing and talking about color temperature, I wanted to just give you guys a little taste of play with watercolor. So we're just going to talk about 6 different types of texture that we can use in our paintings just to create more dimension, more interest. Now, I'm just going to start by using mostly the paint that's on my palette. And I want this to be pretty watery, because we are going to have first of all, the salt demonstration. And all these things have to dry until we can show you what it really looks like, but we're gonna get that prepped right now. So I put that nice watery paint down. We're gonna start with a fine salt. So I have some Morton's salt here. It doesn't matter whose salt it is. I can actually just salt it right there. We're gonna let that sit. The salt is going to absorb, and we're going to see some really cool blooms. So next, it's just going to be some blooms that we're gonna work on. So I have some nice watery blue paint here. And we're just going to get that nice watery mix on. I've been learning as I've been doing my watercolor series that maybe the fastest way to do this is to make, fill in those edges and then finish up that square after the edges are done. All right, so we have a lot of watery mix of paint here. I'm gonna clean my brush, and I'm just gonna dip in to some clean water. And I'm just gonna start adding in some water back in. And you're gonna notice when this dries, you're gonna have some really cool places where things have bloomed and the water has pushed the paint away in some areas. Maybe one more right here in the corner. I use this a lot for ocean scenes when you can create some really cool texture for your waves. All right, next we're gonna do chunky salt. So grabbing some more of this green paint. We have our fine salt and we have our chunky, and we're just gonna see what the differences are. Now, for these, I'm using pretty watery mixes of my watercolor paint because I want to have lots of liquid to be absorbed by, for example, the salt, and then also the rice that we're going to do next. Not next, but one of them right here. And so you're gonna just paint that on. Takes a little bit. Look at these pretty colors. And then we're gonna take the Himalayan salt, and I'm literally just going to crack some salt over. These chunks are a little bit bigger in some cases, and we'll let that dry. I even grabbed some slightly larger crystals that we'll add on here. See if that makes a difference. Okay, so the next one is dish soap. Now I have to warn you guys that this is experimentation. Some of these, or possibly all of them, may not keep your paintings viable. And some people especially would be questioning, why would you use dish soap? So the point of this is play. Once again, it is not to get bogged down with if this is something that's going to ruin your acid-free paper in your painting. I wouldn't recommend using these techniques if you're going to sell a painting. But if you're gonna just play with watercolor and have fun, by all means, go at it. So dish soap, this is just a Myers soap. And look at how cool that is. So nothing fancy. It just pushes the paint away. It's another way to make some cool blooms and some cool textures. One more drop over there. The next one is going to be rice. Let's do some red here. Just gonna mix it up, kind of a reddish pink. Let's see here. Let's just add some orange in there as well. Why not? Okay, so this will be for our rice. We need a little bit more water. And rice is going to absorb the liquid that it's around. So it's going to create some cool textures as well. And I'm thinking with my blooms, I'm gonna drop a few more drops of water in as it's starting to dry and be more damp than soaking wet. We'll just see if that does anything there, because I'm not seeing the blooms show up as much as I would like here. So you never know, it's an experimentation process. Okay, so I have my rice, and I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top, allow things to dry, and we'll see the texture that we get out of that. Okay, so my favorite one in all of this is the rubbing alcohol trick, and I have some salt there. Get out of there. And I'm using this yellow. It's a very light color. Hopefully we will see everything really well. So let's paint up all the sides here. And there we go. I think I'm gonna add in just a little bit of orange too, because I wanna darken up that color. Yellow sometimes can be hard. Not that it's hard to see. Sometimes it's harder to see the texture in it. So we're just going to darken it up, nice yellowy orange. Now I'm taking a Q-tip and I'm dipping in, this is rubbing alcohol, 91%. You could probably do the 70 whatever percent. I'm sure it'll work fine. And I'm just gonna touch down on the paint and look at how beautiful that is. And we can just kind of make these little blooms. So all this paint is being pushed away, even splatter it. Almost look like little jellyfishes. Let's do another one right here. And so that's our texture. So we will come back once this is all dry and just take a look at our final results. Okay, so these have had a chance to dry. Let's remove the salt and see what we got. And then we've got our fine salt and our chunky. This can be some of the fun parts of this. I love adding all this texture and removing and then seeing what we have in the end of it. Just blow it away. So basically for the fine salt, it absorbed a lot and spread everywhere. So you just have these really lovely billowy kind of blooms. These blooms are subtle, but can be used for the ocean. With your chunky salt here, the texture is a little bit different. Where I put the larger chunks, you can see more of those defined blooms. And then our dish soap is still drying, but you can see it made some really cute shapes. I could see flowers being made out of this. Of course, our rice did a little bit of texture. You've got some darker and lighter moments here, pretty subtle. The rubbing alcohol, again, I'm gonna wanna make some jellyfish out of this sometime. So I hope you enjoyed the bonus video, just fun ways to add texture and play to your watercolor paintings. Well, I'm so glad you joined us for day number 4. Day number 5 tomorrow is the last video in our series. We're gonna put together the concepts we learned this week and make a landscape beach composition, as well as put beautiful details on florals. So I hope to see you there. Take care.